Greetings, everyone. DFG here with Gideonsflight.
I'm Destiny Green, the one and only.
And Destiny is my niece. Today is it's a fantastic day in the Green household. Destiny just graduated from Martin Luther King High School.
Yes.
And not only did she graduate from high school today, Destiny also graduated with honors. I am proud to say third in her class. Woohoo! And not only in addition to that, Destiny also received two 4-year scholarships to historically black colleges and universities, Dillard University and Xavier University here in New Orleans. So what we wanted to do was just take a little time and just share Destiny's experience here being in New Orleans. Destiny was only 5 years old when Hurricane Katrina affected this area. And so Destiny had not had the rare occasion to be able to grow up in an environment where that, the life was a lot different than, a lot of her peers. And so I just wanted to just, first say, Destiny, anything you want to share about yourself before you kind of...
Well, I have grown into this amazing young lady, in which I couldn't have done alone without the help of members of school, friends, family, near and far. And I'm just proud to say that I'm a very wholesome young lady. I like to take pride in what I do, which is mostly singing. I have a strong passion for that, and as well as caring for others.
Yes. Well, sometimes they were saying the apple don't fall too far from the tree. And I tell you what, that passion for people is just so important, Destiny. And although I'm thinking that you're still deciding on what your pursuits as far as career is concerned, have you nailed it down to anything in particular?
Well, this is one thing I can't get away from: singing. Music, vocal performance is what I will be attending Dillard University for this upcoming fall.
All right, so we got to keep an eye out for Destiny, a destined future superstar here. Now, Destiny, I have a couple of questions for you. Just kind of, again, growing up, in New Orleans after Katrina, I'm sure it was a unique experience in itself. What were some of the challenges? Do you feel like you had to overcome any particular challenges growing up in this area?
Well, not necessarily, but in a way, yes. Okay. So when Katrina hit, I was a first grader. I just graduated from kindergarten a few days prior to the storm. So I got into first grade for maybe a few weeks and I had to leave. So once I left New Orleans, I evacuated with my dad, my brother, and my grandmother. We went to Florida and I lived in a hotel for a little while, upgraded to an apartment, of which I made several friends there, but I also made a few enemies or people who just didn't like me because I was from New Orleans. So at schools in Florida, I experienced little racism, in my opinion, because I was pretty much the only black student and, I was a teacher's pet. I was a very smart person coming from New Orleans, which surprised many and made people hate on me. So I had a lot of enemies coming up in different states.
Now that's something to when you really think about that's an experience even I as your uncle wasn't familiar with, and also it's interesting, if you don't mind me just kind of sharing some additional information just around how people have to be careful on how they treat other people. We know the golden rule is to love thy neighbor as yourself. Mm-hmm. And even here in New Orleans right now, there's some issues going on around taking down some monuments. And these monuments represent a time in the Southern history that was not very friendly, especially in terms of how the country saw African Americans. Mm-hmm. And, when you start thinking about terms of bigotry, and they're fighting now about why should the monuments stay up? Are these monuments representative of their heritage versus does these monuments represent hatred? Mm-hmm. And we always want to respect where someone came from, right, and their heritage, but if your heritage is intertwined with hate, then you can't separate the two. Right. And, I can't imagine, at 5 years old, 6 years old, if we had to have an experience, Destiny, and we went down to Lee Circle, for example, and there's a big monument of General Robert E. Lee that sits there. And I can't imagine Destiny asking me, well, Uncle Dale, who is that man that this big monument is built to? And I would have to share with you, well, that's built to Robert E. Lee. Well, who was Robert E. Lee? Well, he was the Confederate general. The Confederate general of what? Of the country that wanted to keep our people or people of color in oppression. Mm-hmm. So when you start talking about heritage versus hatred, you have to be very careful. And I only share that because, again, it's important if you're my age, mm-hmm. which is several decades, or if it's Destiny age, at 5 and 6 years old. People feel it and it's understood. So anyway, I kind of digress, but we're gonna come back, current to this, to the more positive event today. And growing up, again, so you guys came back to New Orleans, and then you started. When did you start Martin Luther King School?
I started Martin Luther King School in pre-K. I used to live off of Douglas Street by the levee. My grandfather put me in this school. But due to Katrina, I had to leave in first grade. So I came back to MLK second grade. But we were on Edgar P. Horney's school site because we did not have a building still. By the time we got a building, it was the next year. I was in third grade. And I was in that building all the way up until 8th grade.
Yes. Okay. And so, so growing up in New Orleans, so I know that this particular area, the Lower Ninth Ward, had, 20 feet of water, 20 feet plus of water. So a lot of the community area here is still pretty devastating. So did that bother you having to see that coming and going to school?
It did, mm-hmm. because I have a very vivid memory. And coming back to seeing my city still in shambles and people not wanting to come together to help build one another's homes up, it really hurt me because the city that I'm from was so beautiful. And now it's just like I'm coming back to a third world country almost.
Yes. And it's interesting because New Orleans' reputation is it's the highest high with Mardi Gras and Carnival season, then the lowest low with Hurricane, Katrina. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes people forget that there are people who are here who have to live through both of those experiences and figure out a way. How do you positively balance that? How do you balance that in a positive manner and then accomplish what you accomplished? I mean, what was it that kept you feeling like you could be such the student that you have become?
What kept me motivated was, my grandmother, other grandparents, my immediate family, Facebook family, people like that, my community. It just kept me motivated, and I wanted to make everyone proud, including myself. I always strive for excellence, and that has always been the thing for me.
All right. Well, I was going to ask you, where you see yourself going from here, but I think you've kind of shared that with us going into the music. So not only I'm going to make the assumption you're going to perform. Of course. Yeah, so performance. What about teaching? Do you think that you're ever going to be teaching music at some point in your career? It
wouldn't necessarily be a thing for me because I really, really just want to sing. But if it ever came to that, I'm sure I would still have enough knowledge to someday teach other people. But yes. Most likely my heart will just stay in performance.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what, I've heard Destiny sing, and we might be able to get her to give us like a 1 little minute something. I don't know what she might want to just share with us because I have one more question for her, and then if we can convince Destiny to share her voice with us a cappella, okay. Then we'll have that opportunity, guys. But here's what I would say because I'm looking at the questions. I had 2 questions. What was it like growing up here? And you shared that, with us. It was a somewhat different experience. Mm-hmm. And, we have a home here, so we come back and forth. And I, too, Destiny, see the community that you see. A beautiful community, but a community that's underdeveloped, under invested in. Right. And, and I also see, young people, of your age group that are falling by the wayside. And that's another reason why it's such a special day for me because it doesn't take much to go to the local news and you'll hear all the sad stories in New Orleans. Murder rate, out of control, drug rate out of control, mm-hmm. drug addiction, alcoholism, single parent, young mothers. And here it is, we're looking at, you know, someone who has been able to overcome all of that, and not only overcome it, and I know there's a God factor in it, because I know if I had asked you about that, you would have told me about the faith and, you know, and your belief in God, and I don't mean to be...
Which comes from my family once again. Grandparents, which instilled it into my parents, uncles, aunts. It's always a part of my life.
Yeah, so when God says all things are possible, Destiny is a living example of it, because all the odds says that, you know, she should be a negative statistic.
Correct.
But the truth of it is that she shows that those odds are not necessarily true if there's love around, if there's caring and compassion,
right,
and someone taking a genuine interest in, you know, our young people. And if Destiny don't mind me saying, we've had many conversations sitting on the porch, on the phone, and stressing the importance of education and doing the right things. And again, you know, it brought tears to my eyes, you know, just to see you with today receiving the recognition that you so well, you know, deserve. But also to know that, you know, you went through a very, very tough transition, and many did not survive that transition. I'm talking about over the last 12 years. But, you know, you have, and I know you have a younger brother that's following in your footsteps and
right,
setting a very positive example for him as well. So before we close, is there anything else that you'd like to share that I haven't asked about?
Not really, but I'll go on and give y'all a little piece of my graduation ceremony. The song I dedicated to my class. Okay, it's called My Life Is in Your Hands by Kirk Franklin. You don't have to worry, and don't you be afraid. Joy comes in the morning, troubles they don't last always. But there's a friend in Jesus who will wipe your tears away. And if your heart is broken, just lift your hands and say, oh, I know that I can make it. I know that I can stand, no matter what may come my way. My life is in your hands. With Jesus I can make it. With him I know I can stand, no matter what may come my way. My life is in your hands. My life is in your hands. My life is in your hands.
Woo-hoo! There you have it. Now you know. Thank you, Destiny. Congratulations. Woo! Bye, everybody.
Well, you won't feed me.